Story 1. Osborne Computer began showing off its next-generation computer before it was ready. Everyone canceled orders for the current model in anticipation of the new one, which led to the company's downfall. Story 2. Changing the recipe of Schlitz beer to cheaper ingredients. In 1970, it was the #2 beer in the country, and by 2000, it was extinct. Story 3. BlackBerry for letting their arrogance lead them to believe that Apple or Google could not challenge their majority in the smartphone market. Also, they ignored creating a smartphone without a physical keypad until it was far too late. Story 4. Our local pizza place did a slice meal, big slice, fries, a dip, and a drink for €5. A simple €1 increase absolutely killed them. This was when cash was far more common, and the psychology of just handing over a €5 note was the ticket. Story 5. Sears did not embrace the internet. Sears had pictures of every product, descriptions, pricing, and reviews. Their early business model was shipping products. The physical stores came later, but they still sold through catalogs. By the mid to late 1990s, it was clear that the internet was changing how companies reached customers. Sears even sold and promoted personal computers. It would have been simple for them to place all their catalog items on the internet, as all the information was already on an internal database. Amazon wouldn't exist beyond a bookseller if Sears hadn't ignored their potential while Jeff Bezos used their own model against them. Story 6. THQ was one of the bigger publishers in video games. They held Darksiders, Saints Row, Destroy All Humans, and had deals with Disney, DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, and the World Wrestling Entertainment. They developed the UDraw game tablet, a $70 drawing tablet accessory for the Wii, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. This tablet was a sales disaster and single-handedly killed THQ. The company went bankrupt, and Nordic Games purchased big swaths of their intellectual property. Today, they make games under the name THQ Nordic, but the original THQ died at the hands of the tablets. What is funny is that Nintendo went on to make the Wii U another sales flub, but obviously they must have taken some inspiration from the UDraw. Story 7. Artesian builds. Company CEO Noah Katz gets on their normal PC building live stream where they are going to give away a PC to one of their affiliates. A name gets drawn. Katz looks up the affiliate, reads out the metadata for the affiliate, decides this person isn't important enough, and rescinds the offer. All proudly live on stream. This happened on March 1, 2022. The company announced they were shutting down 8 days later. Story 8. Gerald Ratner, Chief Executive Officer of the Ratner Group, operated a popular and successful jewelry business in the United Kingdom in the 1980s. He managed to sink his entire business enterprise in under 10 seconds when he made a public television appearance and joked that his company's products were total crap. The value of his business dropped by about £500 million in the immediate aftermath and almost went completely out of business. Story 9. Haven't seen it yet, but General Electric is making Jack Welch CEO. General Electric was one of the gold star companies of the United States. Everybody wanted to work at General Electric because you'd be set for life. They took care of their employees, made a ton of money, made good products. What more could you ask for? Then Jack Welch came in and started firing people left and right, eliminating product lines, getting into finance, and worrying about the stock growth. Fast forward to today, where General Electric is now 3 separate companies: healthcare, energy, and aviation. Jack Welch pretty much single-handedly broke down a company that was started by Edison and made some of the greatest technological advancements in the last century. That man is the worst. Story 10. Delivering shareholder value. Boeing, Intel, Blizzard, and Ubisoft, to name a few. Companies need to deliver value for their customers instead. The shares and dividends will follow. Story 11. Intel's decision to forego purchasing ASML's extreme ultraviolet lithography machines until their competitors purchased all of ASML's production put Intel years behind. To their credit, Intel took delivery of one of ASML's machines about 6 months ago. These machines are so advanced that it will be another 18 months until Intel can manufacture chips using these machines. Story 12. Bayer acquiring Monsanto completely underestimates the United States of America's willingness and ability to legally annihilate the same company they were protecting once it turned from US-owned to non-US owned. Story 13. Fordson Farming Company in the United States failed because Henry Ford was stubborn. It's a niche topic, but since I do own a Fordson, let me explain. There was a competition in the US between companies building farm equipment and traction engines, which were essentially highly specialized gas or wood-powered machines. Due to the machines being somewhat specialized, repairing them was an issue since all the parts were specific to that one model, and most of them were only good for one or two jobs, which made them not as profitable. Henry Ford developed the Fordson traction engine until 1907, based on the same principle as the Ford Model T, using existing automotive parts, making production and assembly easy and fast. The result was a cheap, affordable all-around tractor for the average farmer. It was making all the other manufacturers sweat, with the original Fordson being an extremely useful and easy-to-repair traction engine. Fordson was selling a lot as a result. It was called Fordson because the Ford Motor Company board did not like Ford's idea. So he founded the Ford and Son Company, Fordson. The original Fordson was causing other companies like International and Deering problems, and they had to step up their game because Fordson was still selling a lot of tractors. The bad business decision, though, Henry Ford refused to further develop the Fordson tractor. He thought it was already a near-perfect machine and did not need improvement. Ford and Son Limited then failed in 1928 in the United States, having only produced this one model for about 20 years. Henry Ford ran the Fordson brand bankrupt because he refused to adjust to the changing market when other companies had caught up and produced better tractors than the original Fordson. The Fordson brand survived in the United Kingdom, producing different new models until 1965 under the Fordson Farming brand as part of the English Ford Motor Company. I own a beautiful 1958 Fordson 957E Dexta diesel. In the 1960s, the Ford Motor Company merged the Fordson brand into their Ford Agriculture brand. Story 14. Let's take on a bunch of investors so I can buy my partner out. The investors only wanted to see how much money they could take out of the company afterwards, and when the well went dry, they offloaded and tore the place apart. We are going to sell the company. Do not worry, nothing is going to change. The new owners remove anything of value and then fire everyone. I have had these two happen at places I have worked for. Story 15. Yahoo had an opportunity to acquire Google for around $1 million but decided not to. Since then, Yahoo, which was once a tech giant, saw a significant decline over the years and was acquired by Verizon in 2017 for about $4 billion. Fast forward to today, Google is now a powerhouse worth around $2 trillion. Story 16. Atari delayed the release of the 7800 by half a year as it tried to renegotiate royalty rates paid to cartridge developers. In the meantime, Nintendo Entertainment System launched and took the market. The 7800 had comparable technology and could also play all of the old 2600 games too. Story 17. Hiring Ron Johnson at JCPenney. He first decided to never have sales or coupons. That fair pricing with no markups just to mark them down didn't work. People never got coupons or sales flyers, so they never went in. It made sense logically, but shoppers like to think they are getting discounts. He also thought he would make it a cool place. It's JCPenney. In a mall. It's not going to be cool in the 2010s. He did great with Apple stores, but Apple customers, especially Apple Store customers, aren't JCPenney customers. Story 18. Two obvious cases come to mind. 1. Kodak, remember the film brand, invented the digital camera in 1979 but did not pursue that line because they thought it would hurt film sales. Blockbuster Video had an opportunity to merge with Netflix to manage online streaming content but declined. Blockbuster was sure that video rental would never end. Story 19. Blitz USA Incorporated, they made gas cans, car ramps, that sort of thing. They refused to add a simple screen to their gas cans that would prevent flashover, even after multiple lawsuits. Even after not being able to use their own fuel containers on their own production floors due to occupational safety and health administration regulations. Now they don't exist. It's almost a case of corporate suicide. Story 20. In college, I worked for a successful food processing company that decided it would be a good business practice to bribe purchasing managers and falsify food safety labels. The owner went to prison and traded his jet, mansion, and ski chalet for an orange jumpsuit. Story 21. Nokia embarking with Windows for their smartphones. Microsoft ruining everything they touched in order to get cool. Skype for Business, Hotmail, Internet Explorer 6, OneDrive, Equaniv, Danger Incorporated, Band, Bing, Bob, Groove Music, Cortana Speakers, Zune, and so many others. Story 22. Gary Kildall decided not to accept IBM's licensing terms for the operating system for their next computer, which was later launched as the IBM Personal Computer. A small company accepted IBM's conditions and put together a small operating system they bought from another company. The small company was Microsoft, and the rest is history as our digital research and control program for microcomputers. Story 23. MySpace limited you to 10 photos that you had to rotate out after reaching the limit. Facebook allowed you to upload unlimited photos in April 2005. Immediately, everyone I knew tried to get their college email address credentials so they could sign up for Facebook and post or see pictures after every party. Then, in October, Facebook added the ability to tag people, and that marked the end of MySpace. Not only was Facebook the platform where party photos were posted, but you could also be tagged, creating a viral incentive to connect with people and sign them up for the Facebook website, which amplified the social network effect exponentially. You don't want people tagging you in photos you don't know about, do you? Better sign up and review those tags. MySpace was already irritating, allowing everyone to play a different song in the background, causing you to want to rip your ears out from 19 different Limp Bizkit songs playing simultaneously. But I think they could have survived long enough to disable autoplay music if they had simply not put a limit on photo count. Story 24. The softer side of Sears' campaign of the early 1990s occurred when management decided to de-emphasize Sears' longtime strength in so-called hardlines, such as tools, automotive, appliances, and electronics, and instead focus on women's clothing. It was a flop. Sure, the market for women's clothing is a huge one, probably more than all hardlines put together, but there's also a huge amount of competition, and Sears' stodgy, somewhat old-fashioned image was not well suited for a market that thrives on trendiness. Note that this was before Eddie slithered out from under his rock and began to dismantle Sears. Story 25. A local delivery company where I live had amazing wages and benefits. Every driver was eager to get a job there. The crew was so big that the only reason there were other delivery companies was to avoid running afoul of anti-monopoly laws. Then they decided to review their payment structure and reduced the amount paid per haul across the board. Another big delivery company looking to get established in the area then offered the exact same wages they had previously offered. They lost 80% of their employees in the first month, and even though they reversed the pay reduction, they slowly died out over the next year. Story 26. So this didn't wreck the company completely per se, but it did do a lot of damage. Merck rushed Vioxx to market because it was a first-in-class blockbuster medicine, which is the holy grail of big pharmaceutical companies. If you have the one and only type of medicine on the market and it works, that's basically a money-printing machine, and they got that with Vioxx. They chose to ignore Food and Drug Administration regulations and marketed it for something that it was not intended to be used for when applying for a license, which was rheumatoid arthritis, and the drug representatives were lying about safety data for cardiac risks. It ended up costing the company approximately $5 billion in criminal and civil trials and Food and Drug Administration fines. I started working there at the end of the Vioxx payouts, and the cuts to many benefits were staggering. Every time something else would go, including jobs, people would blame Vioxx. Story 27. They did not go bankrupt, but it did destroy the company for a minute. J.C. Penney got a new chief executive officer a while back who said, "Instead of sales, let's do everyday low prices." This sounds good in hindsight since you cut employee costs of always putting out new tags and materials. However, the human brain likes sales, and in a year, the company almost went under. They quickly got rid of the chief executive officer and recouped their losses. Story 28. Schlitz Beer once tried to increase their bottom line by using cheaper ingredients. Result: poorer quality, including a slimy mucus at the bottom of the bottles, which in turn caused sales to drop significantly. They reverted to the original ingredients, but the customer base never trusted them again, and Schlitz ultimately went out of business. Story 29. Acclaim, a game publisher that previously owned the Turok and Burnout game franchises, ended due to its penchant for stunt advertising. Examples include promising to pay for all driving fines in the United Kingdom for one day upon the release of a Burnout game or a competition to name a child Turok. While the commercial failure of Turok Evolution, which had a poorly received console version no one wanted to play, contributed to their demise, it wasn't the only factor. What ultimately killed Acclaim was the attempt to publish an X-rated, sexually explicit game called BMX XXX. Originally intended as the third game in their Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX series, the game invited controversy from the start. Dave Mirra ended his likeness deal with Acclaim upon learning about the game's explicit content when it was announced at the Electronic Entertainment Expo 2000. He also took the publisher to court for continuing to use his name in the game's title, which was intended to be the third entry in the franchise. The game was heavily censored against the publisher's will on the PlayStation 2 and GameCube versions, adding to costs and delaying the release. Sony and Nintendo have rules about explicit content on their systems, which the game violated. Allegations were made that the game was to be rated adults only by the Entertainment Software Rating Board, a rating both companies banned from their consoles, forcing the removal of features like playing with topless women and explicit video footage of strippers performing in a New York club. The game was also banned in Australia. Attempts to market a mediocre Tony Hawk's Pro Skater imitation through sexual content targeted at the college-age demographic resulted in excluding the larger teenage demographic due to its mature rating. This, alongside the game's sex-themed advertising, led retailers to refuse to stock the game, severely impacting sales. This resulted in Acclaim's financial collapse, filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and led to the complete dissolution of the company.